I am going to beat you into the living death.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with the latest edition of the Living Death Show. Today is going to be an interesting conversation, and I've got two very interesting gentlemen right here to have that discussion alongside me. Of course, you know them very well if you watch this channel at all. They are two men who need no introduction, but we love them so much we do it every week anyway. First up is the jack of all trades who has mastered them all, the senior editor of SureDog.com, and the big homie, Ben Duffee. Ben, what's going on today, my man?
Hey, I'm doing real well. It's a cloudy, overcast day here on Texas's Gulf Coast. I couldn't think of a better place to be than in my chair talking with you guys about MMA.
Absolutely. And of course, the man who anchors the panel every week with the stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers. He is the associate editor of SureDog.com. Also, my good friend, Jay Petrie. Jay, what's going on?
It is a good day. I guess I can't really talk about the weather like a Texan because I'm up in the Northeast where it's a little more brisk, where it's rainy, but it's like that frozen kind, so that you might die, but you might not. But it's fun. I don't have a good segue, so we'll just roll right into it. Stat of the week. Stat of the week is two. Because MMA retirements don't mean nothing. They don't mean anything at all. This past week, we had two UFC fighters come out of retirement, recent retirements, to go, yeah, I know I said I was done, but I'm not at all. And in that form, we had Demiris Magulov and we had Askar Askarov that said, I'm retired. And then we're talking within like a month or two. Nah, I'm not retired at all. And yeah, two retirements that don't stick. And we're maybe in a little bit we'll talk about one retirement that I don't know if it will stick after this weekend.
Yeah, we shall see. We definitely will get into all things Bellator. I'm actually going to be on the ground at Bellator 290 this week since it's taking place at the Forum. So be my first time covering a live event in quite some time. So it should be an interesting experience. We're going to have next week Matt Hawkins back on the show, who's going to be there in the building as a fan. So be nice to juxtapose our different experiences there. So we look forward to that conversation. But first, remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Fellas, we do have the return and supposed end, I guess, of one of the greatest fighters that's ever stepped foot into a cage coming in just a few days here. But that's not the biggest story, I think, to discuss, and especially on a program like ours. Three gentlemen who have dedicated a lot of themselves to trying to add to the media space in combat sports and at least attempt to add different layers to the dialogue that goes around this sport. Bloody Elbow, a longtime site that was owned by Vox Media. Apparently, they've got their pink slip for the end of the month, I believe it is, or 30 days. 30 days. I'm not sure when the 30 days was effective. It seemed like these things tend to run out like a month, like they try to get like a calendar month to just trying to make the books a little easier in most cases. But right now, Bloody Elbow is not going to be existing, at least in the form that it is now, part of a huge media conglomerate. Bloody Elbow is known for, drawing the ire of a lot of people who don't exactly want to talk about what's really going on in the sport beyond the X's and O's and who's getting punched in the face. They add a level of journalistic integrity, an investigative quality about them that you don't see in most other sites. The loss of Bloody Elbow, if we can assume that the site is actually done away with and plans to continue independently, we don't know what they're going to shape up like yet, but assuming Bloody Elbow is really out of here, how does this change the landscape for mixed martial arts, in particular for the media?
I think it's terrible. I said this on Twitter, and I don't want to shovel dirt here because, like, within a day of when the announcement came, people from the full-time people from the Bloody Elbow staff were saying, well, hold up a sec. we're going to kind of huddle and see if there's a way we can move forward without corporate support. So, I mean, all power in the world to them, if they decide to do that, and I will browse frequently with my ad blocker off to help in my small way. But if this is the end for Bloody Elbow, either just as a brand entirely or in terms of just a crushing downsizing in response to financial reality, that's a net loss to MMA. And when I said this on Twitter, plenty of people were happy to pile on. You've always got your, it's mostly UFC stands that are tired of Bloody Elbow criticizing the UFC's business practices, whether it's on the social legal side of not policing their fighters better, or just the John Nash, here are the numbers, things that point out ugly reality. There are always plenty of those people ready to pile on, and people who just don't want to hear from what they perceive to be, like liberal snowflake types. And I got a lot of responses saying Bloody Elbow is just a political propaganda site, blah, blah, blah. I say this as someone who occupies a senior editor post at another site of even greater tenure than Bloody Elbow and of comparable stature. All MMA sites are political sites. If you don't notice, it just means that they are politically in favor of the status quo. Bloody Elbow sticks out because they've always been unafraid of pointing out when things are fucked up and making calls for change, making calls to improve the sport, that if you're on Twitter getting at me, you presumably love too. Even if you don't agree with all of the editorial opinions that they've put across or the voice of their news pieces, they have been, and I hope will continue to be, an important voice. In politics, there's something that seems to have been lost in recent decades. I hope it's still a thing, known as loyal opposition, where you acknowledge that there's a possibility that somebody wants the same end goals that you do and just sees a different way to them. Even if you think the UFC's pay scale is fine, even if you think MMA fighters and promoters who hit women are dealt with perfectly acceptably as it is, Bloody Elbows is an important voice out there. Is what you really want nothing but a bunch of sites that rubber stamp UFC news and give you soundbite quotes from famous fighters, and that's the entire media space? I don't think you want that. I don't want that. This portends a change, and hopefully Bloody Elbow continues forward in some shape or another. I will miss it badly if it goes away.
I think this is such an interesting time to be in mixed martial arts media in general. I'll say what my first podcast started in 2015, and I came on board, working with Sherdog. I think it was 2016-ish. I think it was. Since then, there's been so many, moments where things just started shifting. You could feel the tides changing. This is perhaps the biggest out of those moments, because this will be sort of the perfect storm of the idea that journalism is public relations becoming more and more center stage, and these outlets that give the journalists or media members, or whatever you want to call them, the platform to just freely work and to freely look into things and to freely create content without having to sort of kiss up to an authority or follow some agenda. That officially just kind of goes away. Because, and I'll say this, and God forbid I jeopardize anything you guys got going on. And I, was a member of Sherdog, so I understand that I got pushback on certain things that I put out because they're interests that are above our heads. because they're owned by media conglomerates who have their own deals and all sorts of business ties that we are not privy to and we don't have anything to do with. We're just there to talk about a sport. Well, Bloody Elbow represented the last place that you could function under this media conglomerate with the budget to do certain things and the backing to do certain things and put this out without fear. Though plans to continue independently, I certainly hope they work. What I fear, though, is that this essentially defunds what they're able to do. A guy like Kareem Zidane, who has streams of income in other realms of journalism, a guy like John Nash, who, John Nash and Kareem Zidane, who have put together some of the most important reporting in this space, period. Like John Nash has dropped bombshells about what's really going on behind the curtain in several promotions. And that sort of reporting is essential to understanding what's going on when we tune in every week, at least if you're trying to understand it on a deeper level. A guy like that, who I believe he's like a professor or something also, does he have the financial incentive to dig into things the way he can, to find out things like he can, and to report things the way he can? If you take that financial lifeline away, then it just goes under the table because, hey, a man's got a responsibility to his family, so he's gonna pursue the full-time work. It's gonna keep food on the table. Like that's what I fear. I fear that the more it's de-incentivized to actually do real work, we're just going to have more and more fight analysis, which is great, but we can't just be fight analysis. It can't just be, oh, this happened at UFC Vegas 76. We can't just do that every week and expect this medium to progress at all. Bloody Elbow represents a lot of progression and the deep thought that I think we all strive to achieve if you are a content creator.
Yeah.
It's a void that I'm not sure how it can be filled in this landscape right now. Yes, my hope is that Bloody Elbow is able to continue in some fashion independently, or however they are able to see fit, or if they get bought out by another organization, that'd be fantastic. Something like that to keep going, because what you guys said was spot on. That it's more than just having the interest and the initiative to go hunting and looking and analyzing like Body Lock. Body Lock had the members that were interested in this, and they were interested in those stories, but didn't have the backing to be able to put it out in a consistent continuum of front. I mean, it's a site that's gone, for all intents and purposes, gone now, and that was a hit. Bloody Elbow had the freedom to be able to do that while still having the people that wrote and worked, and everybody behind the scenes that we know about too, not just the specific writers themselves, to be able to do this full-time or mostly full-time. And that's a big problem when you look at the rest of the landscape, because I've worked for Sherdog. We're coming up on 5 years now. Duffy, 5 years, man. And I aspire in some fashion to the writers and reporters and journalists of Bloody Elbow, because I feel like Bloody Elbow is the site that I can comfortably call many members of the staff journalists, because Jay Petrie, am not a journalist. I'm a member of the MMA Journalists Association, which appropriates MMA media members, reporters, editors, everything like that. But I have not been schooled. I have not been trained in the art of journalism, nor do I have the ability to do so in my current position. As much as I would love to do so, there are a few things that push back, like not just corporate or what have you oversight, which of course that you touched on, that there are certain pieces that if I were to publish, I may not have this position anymore because of the powers that be, or I have all of the other duties I'm responsible for that I couldn't even imagine taking the time to dig into this. So the Fight Finder File series that I do, where I work with all the Fight Finder staff, the incredible staff members, you know, over 50 around the world that gather and everything like that. I tell their stories, and that is the 1% of journalism that I am able to possibly do. And I feel like I accomplished something in that tiny modicum of space that I do. So to see an entity like Bloody Elbow that provides the information, not the goofy fight stuff, but the deep, hard-hitting information that we cannot get other places, because, you know, I'm not going to bash Junkie or Fighting or bjpen.com or any of those guys, because there's a structure for those organizations too, where there just is, you know, we have to cover this, this, and this. Here's the story budget. Here's how much we can do. Here's what we're running. Here's how we're going to handle the news and everything like that. So there isn't an actual place to be able to run it and do your job accordingly. Whereas Bloody Elbow had that ability, had the power and the wherewithal to run the pieces that, I mean, seriously, you're not, it's not hyperbolic when you're saying that some of the most important pieces that have come out in the sport have been that kind of analysis. The financials, or the sports washing, or the exposing the criminal things. And it really breaks my heart to see the social media, the parasites, or whomever you want to call them, that chirp and celebrate the fall of Bloody Elbow, and you know, we don't need this, and they've been doing bad work. What is it you think they're trying to do? What is it? Do you think that the staff members are trying to hurt or kill the UFC, or work against the fighters? What were you reading to make it so you would think that was the purpose? Like when Nash and Company and Gift and the rest would publish the One Championship financials, the goal is not to destroy or burn down One Championship, is to shed a light, because that is what journalists do. They gather the information, they put it together in a package that can be presented, they present it. It is not like a I don't know, a sort of a pushing for a narrative type of storytelling. The story is told, and you, the reader, can then figure out where to go from there. It is not the kind of message that is being pushed to denigrate, to destroy. I can't think of a single staff member at Bloody Elbow that would actually be like, yes, I am working against the fighter's interest. Are you kidding me? The only time that you could even theoretically say that is if the fighter in question is objectively a bad person and or working with a war criminal. Oh my gosh. Well, how can you be like, yes, I support the person that is palling around with a dictator that kills journalists and gay people and everything like that? How can you be like, I am on that side? Not the people who are literally just writing about it and informing the people, because we should know these things. So for Bloody Elbow to take the hit that it has is immeasurable in the sport that we have right now. And I know that the people involved are going to be fine. I know they're going to bounce. I know they're going to bounce somewhere. Maybe together they'll be able to buy Bloody Elbow itself. I don't know how that whole situation works. I know as an attorney it's messy sometimes, especially if the corporate entity wants to retain ownership of the name while not monetizing and funding. That's a nightmare. So I'm confident that the people will be fine, but it's the void that's left behind that hurts the most.
Jay, you definitely brought up some good things that I want to touch on. So, you know, I was a member of Body Lock for a little while. I think the last year that it ran the way we know Body Lock to be. I was a member of that staff. And one of the things, peel back the curtain a little bit, that time for me as a media member was very, very, very much on the rocks because pandemic, new kid, and and trying to navigate taking care of this family financially and whatnot. And fresh off of my my Sure Dog layoff, and I think I sort of things with my MMA news didn't go bad. It just pandemic, and that interrupted a lot of normal training business. And I got the call from Jake Nichols, who runs the site, and he said, "Hey, I'd love for you to join our staff." He's like, I know how you are. You say what you want. You kind of speak your mind on stuff, and that's what we want here. It's like, downside is I can't pay you that much. It's like, it's like I literally cannot afford to pay you that much, but you have a platform to say what you want, and however I can, I'll back you. And we don't have access to UFC events, so feel free to speak freely. Don't worry about any blowback. And so I was given that free reign with that caveat. You can't take care of your family with this. No fault to Jake. I mean, the man was doing something independently, so therefore he didn't have the backing to fully put a staff together and payrolls and everything else that requires, and a budget to investigate things. When Michael Fidel, who sort of was my initial contact at Body Lock, and I was like, hey man, love for you to come over here and work with me. I got to work with him briefly, and he was putting together a lot of really in-depth investigative pieces, but that wasn't stuff that that was getting funded necessarily by the site. He's just doing it. He's just trying to, however, the young man was just out of high school, without the responsibilities that, a more seasoned professional and an adult would have, the family and the mortgage and all the things that you developed as you get older. He didn't have that. He had the free time just because he was a kid. So when you look at what the episode we just got through, which is nuts that we just kind of got through it and probably won't be mentioned that much. Dana being caught on camera assaulting his wife, and the blowback that a lot of journalists got for not asking the questions. Man, I understand the sentiment. And yes, you should be pursuing truth, but it's so hard for me to point the finger at somebody who's got mouths to feed at home. People point the finger at someone like Brett Nakamoto, and like, man, this guy takes care of his family with this. When you put someone up against that, take care of your family or speak this truth, the choice isn't always that clear.
And it was such a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because there was blowback for people asking the questions at all. There was blowback for people not asking questions. There was blowback for people asking questions but not asking the tougher questions. There was blowback for people really asking the deep questions but not getting any response from them. And what a nightmare. Like, imagine somebody wanting to do that, where no matter what you do, you are doing your job as a reporter, as a news gatherer, as a journalist, if it may be that capacity. And then you're in a no-win situation, where you're the one gathering the truth, the actual objective truth, are the villain. We are way off script right now in terms of how the media is so villainized, and people. I mean, I still cannot get past the amount of actual. I mean, there are burner accounts and people, whatever, that were celebrating the downfall of Bloody Elbow.
It's crazy because what we just talked about with like Jeff Wagenheim of ESPN putting out that tweet, like, hey, essentially saying, hey, we were told to shut up. This is sort of the direction you want media to go without a site like Bloody Elbow. That's what happens. And you think about all the things that we know to be just wrong and scandals that have taken place in the sport of mixed martial arts. And wow, you don't want anybody to say anything about it. Let's think back to when the UFC knowingly had a juice Vitor Belfort fighting John Jones, and Belfort was what, this close to snapping Jones' arm in half and winning the UFC light heavyweight title. Well, that's a big deal when it comes to just enjoying the sport and enjoying the content that we want to see. We just want to see fights. Well, that affected the fights. So you don't want anybody to say anything about that? You want everybody to toe the company line on that? Like, Kimbo Slice passes away from a heart failure.
Mhm.
And but like the month later, he was booked to fight. And like, we're not seeing that, oh, something went wrong with how things work. You don't want anybody to talk about that? One championship has been fudging things left and right, and you want everybody to just shut up? It's sort of like, do you not understand how this affects the fights? Well, Kimbo Slice is passed away. That affects the product because you can't see Kimbo Slice fight. So you should care. If you just care on that level, if all you care about is the fights, well, a fighter is dead now. Do you care? One championship, fudging numbers and doing whatever they're doing, and hydration test and pretending they're drug testing, all sorts of things are going on that affects the fights. So you should care. It's like, I wish I could understand the level of thinking, because it's like several steps removed from reality. All of this stuff affects the fights. If we have a massive amount of sports washing going on, a murderous warlord is literally sending fighters to flood the market of fighters right now, and we turn on a UFC broadcast, and yeah, one of those guys is probably there. That affects the sport. Khamzat Chimaev is one of the biggest names in mixed martial arts right now. You don't think it's relevant to what's going on, to what we watch when he's sitting there playing touch butt with that dictator, or when like UFC legends are going to train his son, or fights are literally being fixed to boost his record up, and this guy could end up becoming part of some other league and really get his brain splattered in because he actually doesn't know how to fight. Or that there are government sanctions on the people associated with this warlord, and these fighters are going there. So, oh, well, maybe this means by association, this fighter won't be allowed to fight in Vegas. Well, that affects the product, doesn't it? All of these things are not disconnected, which is the most amazing thing to me. Like, if someone would think past, the positive calcium around that gray matter inside of there, you might realize that these things are all tied in together. You cannot separate the political motivations of the promoters, because it's going to affect the product. You can't escape the backgrounds of fighters and their associates, because it can affect the product. You can't escape the business dealings of the promotions and the broadcast deals and the sponsorships, because it affects the product. So if you actually care about mixed martial arts, you might want to care about things that go on beyond who got punched in the face on Saturday night, because it goes a lot deeper than that. And surprise, surprise, that's what journalists are for, to provide that window into what's really going on. So if you just want fluff pieces and you want to be spoon-fed something that's might not be true, if you want to be spoon-fed something that very possibly could be tainted, it was journalists that revealed a lot of the TRT scandals. It was journalists that revealed the flaky financials. It was journalists that revealed some of the terms of sponsorships and how that's affected fighters. And we go on and on. We could talk about this all day. But if you actually care about the sport, you care about the reporting around it. You care about the truth that it reveals. So we need Bloody Elbow or something damn close to it. in order to continue pursuing truth and continue to improving the product that we all unite to watch every Saturday. So, gentlemen, I apologize. I kind of went off the rails there, but yeah, sorry, had to get that off my chest. It's kind of hard to tweet all that. You can't tweet all that.
No,
even when Elon changed it to like 6,000 word limit or something. I don't know.
Maybe
if that
then you can get one out.
Get one out, but I ain't typing all that shit, man. At least unless I was getting paid. If it was an iPad or something, I'd do that. But I ain't typing all that shit on Twitter. All right, all right, gentlemen. So I guess in lighter news, we had a huge announcement from Dana White. I mean, I was actually writing my MMA on point script, and Twitter flashed up like, oh man, it's big announcement. Dana White's going to announce something. And there were rumors of things that were going on, and like, okay, we're expecting something. He broke some fight news, or did he break some fight news that we already knew? What did you think about the announcement, fellas?
Well, it actually is a nice segue from what we all just talked about here, because if you are content to get your news directly from the source in this case being the UFC, you're subject not only to what they choose to reveal or not, but to the inherent framing, because they're not only giving you whatever they want you to know, they are telling you how important it should be to you. Announcing this, cool, no problem. Making an announcement out of this, silly. Fight announcements happen all the time. When Dana White really has something important to get out there, they just give it directly to Brett Okamoto. They don't hold a press conference. When was the last time one of these major announcements was actually a major announcement of any kind? Like, it's almost a running joke that they're usually something silly.
Yeah, like the last thing I could think of with the Comzat and Nate fight falling out and like just trying to pick the pieces up from that. Yeah. That was major. That was a major thing and deserved to have our attention and figure out what the hell was going on in that situation with the main event taking place in like 24 hours after the event. After that announcement.
But we already knew about that.
Yeah,
before the announcement happened.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah, that was a reactive.
Yes, that's right. That's a very important fact.
But like, they're proactive. Like, hey, tune in at 4:00 on Friday. We got something big. That's going to be like, well, we've decided that Lorenzo Fertitta is going to take a more active role with the company. Okay, so yeah, like without like actual investigative journalism and independent journalists asking the hard questions, we are subject to what the UFC chooses to tell us, when they choose to tell us, and how important they believe it should be. It's just a fight announcement. It's a big fight, but they've announced more important fights with less fanfare.
And they've also announced fights, like officially announced fights that weren't actually signed. Like that's what they weren't real. Like
and which is bigger news, actually.
Yeah. Like Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa was officially announced by UFC channels and stuff like that. Was officially they putting it out there. They're putting it out there, and it ended up they never even like Whittaker never even signed a bout agreement. So like, this is, you want to rely on this? Quite frankly, I'll just say, like I said on Twitter after the announcement, the fights that they announced were cool, and we'll talk about it in a second. Like, I'm looking forward to the fights. But that could have been an email, bro. I feel like my time was.
I was going to make a similar joke that, I wish that were an email so I could have deleted it. You know, it was as soon as it broke on Friday at like 4:35 or so Eastern time, I had the heaviest sigh because I thought, well, my work day is not anywhere near close to being done here. Now I'm on the clock till, roughly noon to 8, give or take, for a good solid news cycle, but it shifts. I'm around, I'm on call, whatever you want to call it, for news. Because again, I'm a news gatherer. I'm a reporter, not a journalist, reporter, good journalism, not me. Is not that Dana was doing our jobs for us, but man, oh man, I will never, I have been a member of the Sherdog forums since I was a 10th grader in 2002. So I've been around the Sherdog world for quite a long time. And one of the memes that had been an ever-present meme was the Polaroid picture from Memento that says, "Don't believe his lies," and it's a picture of Dana White on it. Forever. That's been the running joke. And I thought, this is a Dana announcement. What could it be? And I had like 3 things it could have been. And so I actually actively wrote a brief on what I thought it could be. It wasn't that, but I wrote like 3/4 of a brief to put it together, and then to have that. Now, granted, that news will break soon. In fact, half of it broke today on Monday, so I'm not wrong there. But the timing of it was just silly to have this stop the presses moment. That was the issue. It was the major announcement. Stop the presses. This is everybody pay attention to me. Here's some fights. I'm going to scream at you at the top of my lungs for 12 minutes about those stupid fights. Great fights. I like the delivery of, okay, this is an important fight. Let's tell you about it. But this didn't feel right. This whole package.
I wish that when he did the announcement, I mean, if keep the same presentation, scream and yell like a wild lunatic for absolutely no reason. But if only he had like food, like stains all over his shirt from fucking Friday. That's the only way I'll accept that. Like, you gotta have bologna pie on your chest for that one.
Can I actually springboard something? I don't tweet at people. I don't really very often. If I do, it's like Full Metal Dojo, but that's because we're friends. I almost at the like 6:15 tweeted directly to Dana to say, how about you get rid of F It Friday and replace it with Fight News Friday? Every Friday, you give us a 2-minute TikTok level clip of, hey there, guys, let's talk about this. Here's a fight that we haven't announced yet, and we're going to tell you about it and why it's cool. Okay. A new fight that is news to us, and or it could be a couple fights, whatever. That would be much more interesting than, okay, it's 4:00, it's time for a new thing. That'd be something to pay attention to. It'd be something that would actually have value to the sport, I guess, if we're going to do it that way. I mean, again, we just talked about journalism and not being beholden to promoters. But if we're going to be handicapped in this fashion, maybe do it in a way that's more conducive to everybody, so we know, so we can prepare, so we can gather, so we can work together. I don't know. I feel like there's so many moments that could be improved, little things that could be tweaked to make it better for everybody. And I don't know what we're doing here.
But you know what, Jay, you're bringing up a very good point here. This kind of
that's
goes,
the problem.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like sort of the problems that the UFC has had as a promotion. It's like this inability to do anything different, to do anything to try to veer off the beaten path a little bit and experiment. Like Dana pretty much took the same approach he took to screaming at the mic, like he did when he was introducing Conor at the Floyd press conferences, and
the defending champion.
Yeah, it's like he's getting excited because, hey, that's what people want from me. They want me to be all riled up and passionate and yeah. And it didn't call for all that. It didn't call for that. It didn't call for that level of showmanship in that moment. Like they are very stuck in their ways. Like the only thing that was surprising to me about that announcement is that it wasn't nu metal playing in the background. That was the one thing it was missing. Other than that, it was just classic UFC. Like, bring back Face
There
of Pain.
will be when they clip it out over the hype reel for that fight when it comes.
Yeah.
Like, he was really cutting sound bites for
Yeah, he was about to burst a blood vessel the way his head was going to explode there.
Okay. It is currently January 30th. The date, November 12th, which I need to actually figure out if that is going to be a date that we're going to have an event No, it would actually be November 11th, but I'm sure there'll be a fight card there. Probably that would be the MSG fight card, unless they moved it to there. Do you gentlemen think that there will be any difference in production on the 30th anniversary fight card that will be November 11, 2023?
Yeah, there'll be a funny colored octagon surface.
They'll have the 30 logo in the middle of the
They
map.
definitely will have that there.
And
yes.
the gloves, yeah. Like that's because what anniversary was that for the Denver show with Korean Zombie and Yair, and they had like the old style presentation with the Ultiman logo.
Was that 28? Was it 2018? Was that the 25th anniversary?
Yeah, I guess that was 25th
already. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's been that
Dude,
long?
we're getting old. Actually, yeah, because I got the 25th anniversary hat from I got one of the 25th anniversary hats. Yeah. So that's I think that was the 25th. The thing is it's like, and I've said this a million times to you guys, and I've probably said it a million more times on this show. Like, just mix it up a little bit, please, bro. Mix it up. They own the rights to so many different promotions and so many different graphics and designs and everything. Just switch it up. Can we get a Strikeforce Day?
Do you know how many pokes in the eye they could have gotten this weekend if they packaged this fight card like Affliction? Because Fedor is fighting over in Bellator.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like
Megadeth is not doing that much right now. They're touring, yes, but you can call them and get them in there for not that much.
It's like just mix it up a little bit. Like, you think about some of the greatest moments that they've had, the big moments. They change things up a little bit. I think even that Korean Zombie and Yair,
it was that fight card.
I think that knockout, as dramatic as it was in and of itself, I think that doesn't feel as big if it's just a regular fight night.
I think you're right.
I think if Conor and Chad Mendes don't walk to the octagon with like live music and this huge spectacle behind them, it doesn't feel as big of a moment.
Yeah.
Just change things up, please, fellas. But all right, so let's get into just a little bit here about the one of the fights that was announced, Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya, the rematch. The rematch in MMA, but like the fourth time they're seeing each other overall. We knew this was the fight. This was assumed almost immediately after Adesanya was knocked out there. Was this the best choice for the next middleweight title fight?
I'm with Jay. It's not a bad fight. I'm excited for the fight, but I've said this on our show before. I say it on my shows on Sherdog. I am never a fan of immediate title rematches unless there was some sort of controversy or something that left the first fight inconclusive. Like, no contest, a weird split decision that a ton of people disagreed with. Sure, run it back immediately, especially if it's a long-time dominant champ like Adesanya was. But here, no. Adesanya was winning a fight and got plunked. Shit happens. You're not the champ anymore. Make them both fight at least one more time, because just like happens almost every time the UFC does an immediate title rematch, they're immediately painting themselves into a corner. If Adesanya wins the rematch, they're going to have a trilogy. If he wins the trilogy, they're back exactly where they were before. Adesanya is sitting on a mostly cleaned out division, looking at his chances of maybe moving up to 205 or something. I like the fight. I'll be excited to see it. No complaints whatsoever about covering another of just, the highest level striking battles in MMA history. Like, count me in. But always, unless there was some controversy in the first fight, make them both fight at least like one other fight somewhere else before putting it back together. Like, build a reason for fans to care.
I think last week I just said it when we were talking about Dom Reyes, and if he's going to have to beat John Jones twice to be the light heavyweight champion. I hate the idea. I truly hate the idea that a challenger will most likely have to beat the champion twice in a row in order to actually be the champ. Like, It's worse than to be the champ. You have to beat the champ. It's worse than that. It's you have to beat the champ and then actually 6 months later do that same thing again. Because what happens if Pereira loses badly? What's the second round knockout? Leg kicks, straight big shot, boom, out, KO. I don't know if the rematch is going to be the next fight for Adesanya. And that's where I don't like it, because it's unfair to the parties involved. Yes, champion versus challenger. Yes, accomplishment versus rising. But I'm so over it, because it not only drags things out, it slows everything down. It makes it less interesting and less compelling, because you don't have the ability for 7 MMA fight Pereira to gain anything by getting into the cage against another type of opponent, training for this other person for 25 minutes, then coming back to Adesanya with an entire new extra camp under his belt to be ready. Because all we're going to do is, I can't say, I'm not going to drop the numbers that, the instant rematch goes a certain way, because I don't have them. That's a lot of work, and I'm work with me here, guys. But it just is not interesting. Is Robert Whittaker fighting Pereira interesting? I think it's a more interesting fight, and I think it's one that Whittaker's earned. Because what do you do now? Whittaker just beat the guy that's directly below him. Whittaker, if Pereira and Adesanya fight, that's one in the rankings right now. That's champion and 1. Whittaker's 2, beating Cannonier, beating Vittori, beating Brunson, not fighting Paulo Costa. Do you make him fight Sean Strickland? That's the next fight for Whittaker after what he's done? No, you make this guy who's in his prime wait. There's more that could be done. That's all I'm saying.
You're absolutely right, Jay and Ben. And I think I'm so glad that you brought up the name Robert Whittaker, because Robert Whittaker was kind of given new life by not having that immediate rematch with Adesanya.
That is a great point, because if he had fought Izzy again,
yeah,
he would have got knocked out again.
Yeah, and even if he didn't get knocked out again, even if it went to that decision that it went to the last time, well, we just lost twice in a row to him. Cast off.
Bum.
Just cast off. And we didn't see anything else in between. Totally cast off. And then he has to just go extra hard to try to earn a shot at the belt, or wait for Adesanya to lose. So then if you do that, if you put Pereira and Adesanya together yet again, say Pereira knocks out Izzy again, or just wins a decision over him, you've got 2 people in that division who got thrown back because they got 2 shots at the belt that they couldn't get. It just throws everything else into disarray. In the meantime, you can start mixing and matching people and creating some interesting stuff that will make us want to see Izzy versus Pereira again. Throw Robert Whittaker in that mix sounds fantastic. Because hey, we got to see a little bit more outside of the Adesanya fight, so we know he might have something different to offer this time around.
Like it's still going to be a great fight.
Yeah,
but it could have been a better.
It could have been a moment. It could have been a moment, and that's what's lacking. The moment, like building up a moment. Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos could have been. They could have been the Ali Frazier of MMA. It really could have been to that level, but they blew their wad with back to back to where what Cain for years all he fought was JDS and Bigfoot Silva. Like that was it. There's only people that he saw for like years, like prime years. This is they messed up something like that, and that's the sad pattern with the instant rematches, that they just waste what could be big moments. Like think about Chuck and Randy didn't have immediate rematches.
That is exactly the trilogy I was going to bring up. It would not have been nearly as interesting if Chuck had not knocked out Randy in the rematch, and then fine, Jeremy Horn, fine, great, you got it, you got another win under your belt, and then they fought for the trilogy, and it meant so much more to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you've added something else to watch and say, hey, maybe it goes differently next time. If this version of X, Y, and Z shows up, maybe we get something else. Damn, I got to tune into that. It just feels more important. But hey, great fight. We'll be watching. We'll talk all about it at UFC 287. So, but fellas, really we expected to hear from Dana on that announcement that Jay, I'm sure all you got to do is press send, and
Pretty much.
yeah, and the article it will go up. Conor McGregor, we've been hearing about him coaching tough. It's something he talked about being offered last week, and we all thought like him and Tony Ferguson was going to be for tough. So far, Tony Ferguson isn't confirmed at the time that we're recording this, but looks like Conor McGregor is. So he will be coaching a new season of tough. Are you looking forward to this, fellas? And is Tony Ferguson the right guy?
Yes and yes. I mean, it has been a long time since I cared about The Ultimate Fighter. And I mean, I know it's cool to kind of dunk on if you're a fan of a certain era. Like, I'm not trying to be too cool for school, but just, I think season 8 was the last one where I watched every episode, and probably season 13, the Tony Ferguson season, was the one where I at least watched all the fights. Or was he 16? I can't remember. Anyway, it's been a while. Like, the proliferation of international seasons, the last 10 regular seasons where just the talent level is ghastly. McGregor is at least a reason to care. Like, I'm surprised that they got him to agree to this. Can you imagine Conor McGregor agreeing to coach The Ultimate Fighter in like 2015? No, of course not. He was the king of the fucking universe. Like, this is, they won't pitch it that way. He certainly won't pitch it that way, but this is a bit of a like humbling moment for McGregor. Like, he is committing to be someplace on a daily basis for 6 weeks. He is at least nominally committing to coach and act interested in a bunch of stranger journeyman or prospect fighters for 6 weeks. This is, if they even tape successfully, that makes me feel differently about the remainder of his fight career. Like, I care about this. And yeah, like, Ferguson is the perfect opponent to let us know if McGregor has anything left at 155 pounds. Can he make 155 pounds? Because he's starting to look more and more like a circus strongman. It's not that he's gotten fat. He's just gotten wide. It looks like I did something to him in Photoshop. He's the same McGregor. He's just times 150 here, like in the horizontal sense. Ferguson's the perfect opponent for that. Ferguson has become chinny. If McGregor is still McGregor, he lamps Ferguson. If he doesn't, Ferguson has everything it takes to test him. He's a venomous grappler. He still has, I mean, as far as we know, he still has outstanding cardio and is willing to fight at a furious pace. Like, I like it as a fight. Like, I like everything about this. This would have been a great thing to announce on Friday if they could.
It was exactly what I had expected was going to be ready to drop on us on a Friday to kind of
I wonder if this is what they wanted to announce and they couldn't get it together in time. So Dana just had to yell his head off about something that wasn't that
because it was what, like 35 minutes late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they might have had Hunter on Campbell, like with 2 phones, like trying to negotiate the deal. Like, can we announce it? Can we announce?
Physically trying to find Ferguson, like running around.
Yeah.
Well, remember, just a few hours before, Conor McGregor had been hit by a car. That was the same day.
Yeah.
In Ireland.
Yeah.
So he may not have been around to get everything situated on his end, because Tony was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because, excuse me for a second, I got a hairball.
Well, how about this?
It would have been the biggest thing that Tony could have. Yeah, I mean, well, not that, but it would have been the biggest thing for Tony. It's the biggest. Yeah. It's the biggest thing he could get. Now, in his stage in his career, we were, I can't remember, Ben, but was he on your cut list after Ferguson? He lost his last fight? Or your mercy retire?
No, it was the cut list in the hopes that he would retire, but of course he wouldn't.
So I thought, and this is a not breathing new life, but gosh, it's a winnable fight. right now. We don't know what Conor's going to bring to the table. Am I going to watch it? Do I have to? I mean, I'm so sorry, Ben. I'm very, very sorry, but it's my professional duty to tell you that Conor did coach tough in 2015 against Uriah Faber.
But it wasn't like it wasn't the same like
Not
classic
quite.
style.
Not
yeah, it was
quite.
Yeah,
And remember he didn't he also call in a few times?
Yeah, he wasn't there.
I think he phoned a few. He didn't phone in like Chuck in the LA season.
Like he didn't Skype it in.
He didn't Skype it in, but I think he actually did call in a few times.
No, I totally forgot about that.
But,
wow.
But this is a different, because it sounds that it, from what I hear, we know from I guess we'll say sources close to the situation, that this is a full-throated Conor's in. Coach Kavanaugh's in. This is they're building a team to make the best lightweights. The best fighters that they're going to come up with. I didn't just break the weight class. It's guys, seriously, show of hands, will you watch more than one episode? Yes.
It really depends. The thing is, like, personality wise, like, Ferguson is a guy that, it might be entertaining.
He will bother McGregor. Irritate him.
Like that could make things entertaining to an extent, but also it's still a very juvenile form of entertainment, in my opinion. So it's like a step up from Junie Brown or something, like, or June Browning, whatever the hell his name is. Like that's it's like taking that up a notch, in my opinion.
Like, we're gonna hear the word McNugget.
Yeah. Oh,
1,800 times.
Oh my God. I'm just who's gonna destroy the door?
Tony. Of course, Tony.
Tony.
He might do it just because he's like rolling around.
Good morning, guys, and just
he's just doing floating around and
hashtag champ shit only.
Yeah.
Comes through like the Kool-Aid man.
He's breakdancing and then just kicks it down or something. Yeah, that's possible. McGregor is known to have a bit of a temper too, so I could see him putting his fist through it just because he heard McNuggets too many times or something. It's just gonna. I think it's going to appeal to the basest level of fans, which I guess is really,
the ones that are cheering for Bloody Elbow to fall.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah, those
ones
guys
that are watching Power Slap League.
Yes. If you watch Power Slap, you are probably going to love the personality clashes in Tough. Like, I'm honestly surprised it wasn't Michael Chandler that we're hearing about more. Because that fight was something that they were putting together. And at least with Chandler, if Chandler beats McGregor, which I would assume he would at this stage, like, that's a guy that they have been really trying to push, and you can throw him right back in the title picture, and that makes sense. So it's like, okay, you continue on with a star as opposed to what Tony Ferguson, what's he going to do? He's still going to be sort of on the outskirts and of divisional relevancy.
There was one bit of a surprise during the Friday announcement that I thought was going to be tough, but it was actually the 287 lineup, is that they announced Burns Masvidal. Why? Because that Masvidal could have been an absolute real, because then that's a pay-per-view.
Yes.
Is McGregor Ferguson a pay-per-view?
McGregor is a pay-per-view. McGregor versus a bag of potting soil is a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He will demand to be the headliner of the pay-per-view, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But McGregor Ferguson, Ferguson's on a 5-fight skid. That's tougher to sell than the Cerrone fight.
Yeah, but
that still sold $1 million buys. So what the hell am I talking about? Of course it is.
Ferguson just headlined with Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
So there's that. He's a guy you say, oh, he's a former champion. There are a lot of ways they could spin that, and he's still a guy who holds a ton of respect. And at least some level of familiarity to a casual fan.
And he wasn't just getting lambasted every time he was fighting. Like, his losing streak, there are still clips you can pull out where maybe not the Oliveira fight, but there are other fights like, oh, he landed a shot.
He took a round off Chandler.
Definitely. He took a couple rounds off Diaz, I think.
He was beating Michael Chandler until he got caught.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you could.
That's right. That's
right. Yeah, you could sell that.
Yeah.
You definitely can sell that. So Masvidal would have been would have been the right choice in my opinion
Yeah.
because
foil.
McGregor at this stage is firmly separated from divisional relevancy and the title picture and all that, and Masvidal had through this whole BMF and all that is out of that picture, and
Right.
the lunacy of Gilbert Burns wanting this to be for a BMF belt, another story.
And if you made that stupid fight for that stupid belt, then you have you get The Rock or whatever. No, maybe not The Rock.
You get like
Vin
Matt
Diesel.
Damon or something or whatever, and present it like that.
Yeah.
That would make sense. That would fall right in line with the direction that you kind of have to take with a Masvidal and McGregor fight.
If you want that direction, you call up Andrew Tate. That's a different thing, though.
Fresh out of jail, huh? he's still got that been on the yard for 2 weeks haircut. So, wow, I don't even want to touch this any further. Let's move on. Okay, gentlemen. I guess it's time for us to move into the greatest title segment in all of media history. I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons, where we share something that surprised us or ironically did not since we last met. Ben, I'll begin with you. What's your I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
Well, it's something that we've been building towards here as we have talked about both warlords and retirement that don't stick. But former UFC flyweight Askar Askarov is proving that you can go home again. He joined the UFC a couple of years ago as a former ACB, right before it turned into ACA flyweight champ. Entered the UFC with very high expectations. I mean, he was undefeated at the time, like 13-0, and he had a good run in the UFC. He went 3-1-1, and he was firmly a top 10 guy. If the flyweight title hadn't been tied up for essentially almost the entire time he was in the UFC, he's a guy that with a win here or there would have been right in the title picture. But last November, he asked out of his UFC contract for health reasons, he said. Like, okay, UFC granted him his release beginning of November. He is now back. He is signed with ACA, the spiritual successor. Makes me sick to call it that, to ACB. He's back. He's right back in their flyweight division, presumably right back in the title picture. He never lost, his belt there. But I'm thinking of the quote health issues that could be cured by going from competing in America to competing in Russia. And yeah, I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. This is a guy who missed weight in the UFC. This is a guy who got rung up in his last fight in the UFC. Both of those things are much less likely to happen in the friendly confines of ACA. I'm less disgusted with him. I mean, he is from Dagestan. He's going to go back and compete in Russia for a Chechen warlord, but at least he's going home. Like it's not admirable, but it's not as despicable as like an American, like happily competing for that guy. But yeah, just very funny that Askar Askarov's health problems, probably mostly related to the scale in USADA, are now solved. So health and long life, sir.
Cheers to good health.
Yeah.
Jay, what's your I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
You know who else is making a comeback in the sport besides Askar Askarov and his medical issues that made him to allow him for release in the UFC? Somebody else got their recent release from the UFC. Todd Duffee. He's back, boys. Todd Duffee, heavyweight extraordinaire with all the potential in the world and a lot of knockouts to his credit, and includes 2012 knockout of current KSW champion Philip DeFries. Well, Duffee DeFries 2 is coming to KSW near you. KSW 79, February 25th. They're putting that fight together in Czech Republic, which is the first KSW card in Czech Republic. That Duffee, his last fight was in the UFC. You remember how he had the Frank Mir fight, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the Frank Mir forearm, and then retired and was good and whatever. And then he came back out of the blue 4 years later and fought Jeff Hughes, and he drilled Jeff Hughes, and he was like, he's back, and then got his eye poke, and then disappeared for another couple of years, and then COVID and everything like that, and then that was the end of it. This guy's had more retirements than, well, Fedor Emelianenko. Whoops. So Todd Duffee's back, and he's fighting for a title in a major organization, and you know what? He might win it. And that's crazy to think, because Phil DeFries has been spectacular over there. If you guys haven't been paying attention, Phil DeFries, he was a middling top 50 heavyweight in the UFC. Like Matt Mitrione knocked him clean out in like 20 seconds level of power, has gone to KSW and has destroyed everybody. And so now Todd Duffee is getting his chance to lace up the gloves. And let me tell you, I am oddly excited about this fight. I don't know why. I am so morbidly curious to see how it's going to play out, but
because if there was one promotion where he will return to his pre-USADA greatest version of himself, like it is where one championship where if he finds the stash of one vitamins along with people like Aung La and Brandon Vera that are just 30 pounds of muscle bigger than they were during their so-called athletic primes,
then go to KSW. And that's what you do.
Yeah. Because dude, KSW is,
he'll be quite vascular, I guess.
I'm sure he'll be.
Yeah, he's gonna come out looking like Pujanovsky, like hopefully a little less maroon. But
it's like whenever Phil DeFries fights, the first thing I think of is him going to a tattoo parlor and seeing a picture of Dominic Cruz and like, I want that one. That's the very first thing I think about. All right, so I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcon's moment. I mean, we're all in the same vein here of retirements that didn't quite stick, because I've got two that have come across my attention, and both of them, at least they left the actual combat sport that we unite to talk about every week, gentlemen. Jose Aldo, former UFC featherweight champion, all-time great featherweight, and hoarder of dictators and political outcasts
and Minions memorabilia.
Minion Stan Jose Aldo, he take a little break from planning a treasonous insurrection to leave retirement to go to pro boxing. He's just got announced for a fight on February 10th in Rio de Janeiro. His opponent, where's his opponent's name? I forget. Oh, Alberto Emmanuel Zambrano.
Okay.
Yeah, he is 0-3, and Jose Aldo will be making his pro boxing debut against this gentleman. But that's not all, fellas, because another person who just got his retirement papers from the UFC is now putting himself on the open market and said he wants to box Jake Paul. That is the man known with the best boxing defense in UFC history, Luke Rockhold. He is officially on record now. He wants to box Jake Paul, and he has got a all clear release to the UFC. And I guess if Paul goes ahead with this Tommy Fury fight, which I think is official now, or and then we're also hearing Mike Perry as a backup, whatever the case may be, Luke Rockhold might be next. So, yay. Can't wait.
Yeah, I knew he was a free agent, but boxing?
That's terrible.
That's like the worst idea.
And that'd be a terrible step back from Fury for Paul. Like if Jake Paul beats Tommy Fury is he's an average boxer.
Yeah.
But he's a boxer.
Tommy Fury would dust Luke Rockhold.
Like Luke Rockhold is bad boxing by MMA standards.
Yeah.
Guys, I so wish the kickboxing had more money in it, because then at least he could kick, which is what he's really good at.
Yeah.
What a dang shame, man.
Yeah. That is something. So
go to Ryzen and do their standing rules fight.
Do something. Like do something other than that. Karate combat. Although
actually that'd be fun.
Although I don't think if he were to fight in karate combat, that would actually, to my knowledge, that would be a deviation from their rules, because I believe obviously their fighters cross train and stuff, but you have to be a black belt in karate.
I think so. I think that's the case.
In any particular discipline of karate, you've got to be a black belt in. So as far as I know, Luke Rockhold doesn't have a karate background. I believe his background is judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before he got into in training with AKA. So Jay, you should fight for Karate Combat.
Give me a call, Casey.
Make it happen, Adam.
Cover the thing, have the microphone, and be like, "Excuse me, guys, I got to get laced up here."
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do the Sean O'Connell.
Yeah, you got just go ahead, just take the clothes off and just jump in there and fight. All right, fellas. So let's go ahead and move on to quick hits. I've got 10 seconds on the clock. Jay, I have a feeling you'll have something interesting to say on this one. The Forum in Inglewood, California. Is that the right place to hold Fedor's final bout? Oh, wait, did I actually had have to press the button, right? Yeah. There we go.
Like his last two fights were in the Saitama Super and in Moscow, and we're putting him in California. It's better than the Mohegan Sun. At least there's that.
Yeah, like the Forum is like this historic venue that, and it's a wonderful fight venue too.
Let me revise my answer. Yes, because you'll be able to see it.
That is the right way to think. Yes, because I'll be there.
You'll be there.
I love it. I was there for the first one. It's also at the Forum. So yeah,
the Sioux Falls, the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, is going to miss out on Fedor's last fight. But...
All right.
Go down to the WinStar. What are they up to?
Yeah,
in Oklahoma.
Unconsville is just so mad. Like, God damn it, we missed the big one. All right, which one? Oh, wait, let's see. Oh, where am I? Oh, there we go. Ben, whose long win streak will end in Bellator 290 in the co-main event? Johnny Eblen or Anatoly Tokov?
I am leaning towards Tokov getting his streak broken here, but I think it's a really competitive fight. Two fighters that are actually kind of similar in broad strokes, just well-rounded guys that are used to having the wrestling as a safety valve.
Yeah, this should be interesting. I'm hoping the grappling credentials kind of cancel each other out in this one, and we get a fun one. That's what I'm really hoping here.
I'm going to ask you a question now, if you don't mind, Ant.
Absolutely.
So you asked me about, is the Forum the right place to put Fedor on? Because remember, this Bellator 290 card is also the big show on CBS. And y'all, I don't know if you've looked at the lineup, but it's Bader, Fedor, Eblen, Tokov, and Sabah Hamasi, Brennan Ward is the main card. Just a three dinger like the UFC on Fox's used to be. I don't know about you guys, but that feels a little lacking. Like, this is the CBS show. Let's put on our rock star. So, Ant, is there a fighter or a fight that you would have added of all the Bellator people that you could have to put on that CBS show? What would it have been? Or who would it have been?
I think you know exactly what I'm going to say, fellas. MVP. This is obvious. It's like you don't want to see spinning shit on the broadcast. Come on, man. And you know what? Disrespect the clock. Because I know he's in his last fight was in Karate Combat, but can we please get the Raymond Daniels fight? MVP versus Raymond Daniels would have been perfect for this. Oh my God, you guys dropped the ball. And no Aaron Pico either. Come on, fam. What are we doing?
Yep. I mean, McKee just being a local guy and one of their biggest stars would have been an obvious one. Or just hell, even just bump Larkin up would be something. Larkin,
yeah, because he's from the IE.
Yeah, it's like Riverside. Yeah. Screaming Compton, but he moved to Riverside. I don't know if that's true, but I know he lives in Riverside.
I'll ask him. I'm asking him, like,
okay.
I hope he doesn't kick me in the jaw or something. All right, so I guess I gotta ask us a question as a group here. So let's just go ahead and do it, man. In fact, I'm not even going to turn the clock on for this. We'll wrap things up with this question. If Fedor wins on Saturday, do you think it'll really be the end for him as an MMA fighter? And let me say my opinion off jump, because I know you guys are going to take all the good stuff. I'm going to save some good stuff for myself this time. I don't think it matters what happens on Saturday. Fedor's fighting again. Win or lose, Fedor's going to fight again. And it's not going to be in LA. It's not going to be against an opponent like Bader. It's going to be like in Russia or Japan against like a truly hand-picked opponent with some name value.
Like Vegeta.
Something like that. Like it's gonna be something of that vein more than anything. Like it's gonna be something ridiculous or something that's just like two guys that are like JDS or something like that. Two guys that are old and past the prime and are shot worn or whatever. But it'll be something like that.
I'm just gonna say, and I'm not wishing this upon anybody, but TK fought last year and won last year in Ryzen. It was an actual real professional fight. He's like 52 or something like that. I'm just saying to start and end, he didn't. I mean, obviously his debut was against Lazarov, but
the rubber match, the circle of life
for all of the marble. No, they've all been lost. Yeah, I'm with you, Ant. I don't think this is the end. I think he got one more in him. I think it's going to be in Japan over Russia. I just feel like the only way that he goes to Russia is if he goes to ACA now. Like he's not going to Fight Night Global because they're kind of scaling down. And I don't know if ACA and Fedor are. Yeah, they're not quite on the same page.
They're on opposite sides of a cultural divide.
Yeah, there's that too. But
and Fedor Fedor's family an actual, real legitimate beef with Kadyrov. Like, didn't he get one of his nieces or something attacked or something crazy like that?
There's stories
or rumors of it or something. Yeah, that's
so Japan. Of course, Japan.
Yeah,
because Ryzen can throw money at him.
One championship could too.
Nah, I don't think because who are they going to put against him? Arjun Bowler? He'd win.
Brandon Vera.
No. I'm going to put something into the world that I shouldn't. And I'm sorry. Because I know he should never fight again. My gosh, he really should never fight again. Crow Cop. Fedor Crow Cop 2 headlining Ryzen 46.
It sounds nice, but I don't. Crow Cop seems like a guy who has enough going on outside of fighting to where he doesn't he's a politician or something, right?
He not anymore.
He's not active as a politician anymore.
He served a term.
Yeah, that's a guy who I think values his life outside the cage too much to jump in a training camp with the heart condition and all that. It's got to be a JDS. It's got to be
or Roy Nelson.
Roy Nelson, it's got to be somewhere in that vein. It's got to be Barnett in a place where drug testing isn't a thing.
Tsuyoshi Sudario.
Oh, that would hurt though because he might get beaten up by that sumo boy.
You think you? Oh no! Well, actually,
Shrek Sakine or something.
Yeah. See, one name that we've all wanted to see forever. It's like, no, he's got a heart issue now. Randy Couture. He probably could have pre-heart attack. You probably could have talked him out the couch for Fedor. But shit, Chuck Liddell is trying to fight again.
What?
Chuck and Fedor? That could happen.
I'm still
God, I don't want it to happen.
I'm still not going to say. I'm still not going to say no to Anderson. But actually, let me ask you guys. I know we're way late, but that's okay. What did PFL release for Doom?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it.
Because that fight was in 2021. He didn't fight in 2022 at all.
I think Verdum might be too. It might be
because Verdum's 45, so he's not as slippery as he used to be.
That's true. It might be a touch much for Fred because you want like something more handpicked. Like, it'd have to be two guys
like a Datsyuk.
Datsyuk.
Just tell Datsyuk that it's like Alex Emelianenko that he's fighting. Yeah. So he just works himself up into like a murderous rage.
Tell him that Fedor's Jewish and see what he does. Yeah. And...
Datsyuk and Alex, he actually fought not long. I think they fought last year.
Was it sanctioned?
Yeah, Datsyuk. Yeah, Datsyuk
theoretically.
Yeah.
In Russia, it's one of those pop fights. Because he already fought Monson, so Fedor, so that wouldn't be as fun.
And he don't want to fight one of his countrymen like in his last fight.
That's right. What's Ricardo Arona up to?
Probably about 240.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so sweet.
He's surfing like crazy, War Child style, but
put him in there against Kadyrov.
Just have him job to Kadyrov.
Kadyrov, you see the way he was handling Chimaev? You see that?
Boy. Boy. I mean, there's what's messed up is that there are actual names like Mark Hunt. He would do it again. I don't know if Tim Sylvia could make heavy, so just make it open weight.
No, make it open weight or super heavy or whatever.
I mean, Heath Herring is never going to say no to a fight that's against Fedor type. I mean, he hasn't fought in like 5 years, but
hey, do you think?
Come on,
this is wild. This is wild. I don't know what the contracts look like. Brock Lesnar.
That's the name I was about to say. That'd be
oh,
funny,
really? It might be a little rich, but boy, oh boy, I would buy that for $1.
It would make all the money in the world.
They could get both Fedor and Brock for less than one Floyd Mayweather, and they're happy to.
That's true. And you know what? I think Fedor versus blank like Brock would sell way better than Floyd. Oh my God. Sakakibara, call us. We got you. We got your problems are solved. You put in Bork Laser.
Yeah.
You're selling.
Yeah, man. I think we just fixed MMA.
Yeah. I mean, either that or the guys from Full Metal Dojo could really dig into the couch cushions and get Fedor versus Nut 1. And I say 1 because it's going to have to be a trilogy after Nut destroys him without even taking his wingtips off.
Man, I should. You know what? I think I'm gonna try to fight for Fight Metal Dojo. I need
Oscar's in, by the way.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. Okay.
Just saying.
Okay. I wouldn't fight Oscar.
No, I know, but
like Oscar and Ant versus Bank and No Money, for example.
Okay, yeah.
But like you can only kick and Oscar can only punch, and they stack on each other's shoulders like Master Blaster. Shit.
and Casey Leiden's not saying no. I'm just saying a
media Full Metal Dojo. I would fight.
If I get myself in shape, we have ourselves some fun.
Yeah, I'm not that far from like a fight weight right now. I'm not far from it. I've been taking good care of myself lately, so I think seriously obviously a real training camp, but just fitness wise, I would be like a month away from like fully okay. I can do a fight camp right now.
I can make a couple phone calls, by the way. If this is a real serious consideration, there are real phone calls to be made.
I would fight in Full Metal Dojo. I would do it. I would definitely do that. So, yeah.
Anyway, I know that was our last question, but I actually have something to break here. Breaking news! It's about UFC Vegas 70. Ben,
68, I think.
What is this? 68?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. UFC Vegas 68 is having a new addition. Laura Sanko is joining the color commentary team.
Oh, that's awesome.
Damn time.
That's
awesome. Damn time.
I'm so happy. It makes it so like I might tune into the card as I'm drifting asleep after covering Bader Fedor and
like I'll probably be like in the media room finishing up, so like editing something and
watching
and then I'll start watching the UFC event before I leave the forum. That's dope. It's about damn time. Yeah. It's about damn time. And the only thing more exciting than UFC Vegas 68 is UFC Vegas 69, baby. Nice. All right. With that being said,
I mean, I guess they were smart enough not to have her start on that one.
You did that. All right. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Living Death Show. Ben, Jay, as always, thank you so much. I love it every week, sitting down and chatting with you guys about this foolishness that we seem to have gotten ourselves involved in. So everybody out there, remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Bellator 290 coming up, so Ben and Jay will be on the call for sure, dog. You'll see all their fight coverage. I'm gonna try to add a few things to the channel, try to get a couple of interviews or something, and but I'll be there. I'll have some revelations to share because of said event next week when we have Matt Hawkins joining us as well with his fan perspective. So should be a good show, so tune in next time for that. Remember, stay beautiful, stay positive, stay retired, and stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.